as a responsible Christian who is not afraid to be self-critical, is it wrong if I want to understand Christianity's global mission? And will my voice be silenced or ignored? Number 1. Exploring Christianity's global mission. Christians have already shown how from being a minority, they can quickly become a majority. According to a Washington, D.C.-based think tank, Christianity has grown enormously in sub-Saharan Africa and the Asia-Pacific region. The share of the population that is Christian in sub-Saharan Africa climbed from 9% in 1910 to 63% in 2010, while in the Asia-Pacific region it rose from 3% to 7%. Yes, from 9% to 63% in just 100 years. How mind-boggling is that? It has been observed that the growth of Christianity in Eastern Africa has been mainly at the expense of ethno-religions. Whether it is forced religious conversion of the indigenous Sami people in Northern Europe or Africans losing their native cultures to Christianity through crusades, colonization, inquisition, conversion, or various other means, Christianity has spread all over the world. But mind you, the journey seems far from over, as many Christians believe in something that they refer to as the unfinished task. For example, let's take a look at the Joshua Project's database, which contributes to Christian missionaries. All over the world, almost everyone who is not a Christian seems to be on their target list. For instance, let's check if the surname Modi is in their database. Yes, it is. Even the surname Modi is in their target list. Not only that, Muslims are in their database too. They even have a progress meter for everyone. Can you believe that? But why do they want these non-Christians to convert to Christianity? After all, why should the whole world be Christianized? Won't that hurt our global diversity, pluralism, and global peace? Anyway, now check this webpage, which reflects their strategies. It seems quite clear that India is their primary target. How can we ignore this? This article on the British news website, The Guardian, talks about those Christians who work to see Jesus worshipped by every tongue, tribe and nation. Seriously? Why is it openly happening? Why do these Christians want the total evangelization of the world? Well, their goal seems clear when we go through these lines. All the world and to every creature, the essence of the global mission is to make disciples of all peoples. So, does it mean that global conquest is real? Well, this is what Pope Francis said regarding this. Read the statement carefully. If that is the case, how should the native tribes and indigenous communities react when Christianity comes to replace them? Should they simply allow their cultures and religions to be replaced, or do they have a right to resist and preserve our global diversity? What can be the appropriate response to this Christians' global mission? Number 2. Penetration in academia, Christian scholarship, Christian banks, and Christian financial institutions. Did you know that in the USA, there are hundreds of religiously affiliated universities and colleges, many of whom don't hire non-Christians as full-time faculty members and administrators? Read the employment policies here. And many educational institutions don't even hire same-sex couples. In particular, 140 Christian colleges and universities in the USA belong to a very special category, as they are associated with the Council for Christian Colleges and Universities, or the CCCU, who have declared clearly that their mission is Christ-centered. This may sound strange to you, but they openly say that they relate scholarship and service to biblical truth. See what the CCCU mentions on their official webpage. And please, don't underestimate their massive financial power. $60 billion in total economic impact each year, just in the USA. Now, let's take a look at the list of these Christian colleges and universities of the USA. Let me check this Gordon College first. This is their website. Now, let's check their statement of faith. Read what is written here. At the end of the age, the bodies of the dead shall be raised. The wicked shall be condemned to eternal death. Wow, let me remind you, this is not a church website. This is a 21st century American educational institute talking about the eternal death. Not only that, in many of these educational institutes of the USA, chapel attendance is mandatory and is a graduation requirement. Seriously? Compulsory Christian prayer sessions for students? Now let's take a look at Liberty University, which, by the way, is not on the CCCU list. Please read their statement of mission and purpose. They want to contribute to the Great Commission. Yes, the same Great Commission which was also mentioned in the Joshua Project webpage. It seems that all these different organizations and institutions are working or contributing to the same global mission. Now, let's try to understand the intellectual power of the CCCU-affiliated Christian colleges and universities. Pay attention to these numbers. With so many universities, colleges, academicians, and scholars at their disposal, is it right to say that Christians are more than prepared to take on any challenge or opponent academically? And of course, don't forget, if one's father or mother is a Christian missionary, one is eligible for special benefits through scholarship. Besides all this, how can we forget the robust parallel economy that Christians have created, which is serving their global mission too? From Europe to America, they have their banks and their credit unions. Take a look at this. Kingdom Bank. Their vision is clear. They help churches grow. America's Christian Credit Union. They are committed to the expansion of the church in the world. Here's another one. Christian Community Credit Union. Go through their mission, vision, and values. Jesus Christ will return to earth, will raise the dead, and judge all people. They offer credit and debit cards too. Every time users use these credit and debit cards, more and more money is generated for new church planting, international missions, etc. You can read this right here. And of course, they also believe in the Great Commission. Make disciples of all nations. Their passion is to expand God's kingdom. And of course, the CCCU also partners with them. Are you surprised? Yes, it seems clear that they all are working together to expand their God's kingdom globally. Number 3. White supremacy, Christian slavery, Nazism, fascism and Christianity. As far as fascism and Nazism are concerned, many of you are familiar with Adolf Hitler, but did anyone tell you about the role of the German Christian Church during the Nazi regime? This is an official webpage from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. It talks about how most Christians in Germany welcomed the rise of Nazism and that in both German churches there were members, including clergy and leading theologians, who openly supported the Nazi regime. They stood with them shoulder to shoulder. For example, take a look at this picture, which is available on an official webpage from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. As mentioned over here, this is Catholic clergy, and mind you, these are very senior Nazi officers. In particular, this man, Joseph Goebbels, was very close to Adolf Hitler. According to the award-winning American author Chris Hedges, Adolf Hitler was in the eyes of the German Christian Church a folk messiah and an instrument of God. Sarah J. Bloomfield, the director of the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, mentioned at the United Nations headquarters that Nazism had deep roots in German and European history. Now go through this to understand who provided the grounds upon which this superstructure of hatred was built. As Christians, are we running away from the answers? Now let's take a look at this study on Harvard's webpage regarding what is described as Christian slavery. It mentions how Christian missionaries argued that conversion of slaves would make slaves more obedient and hardworking and make slavery into a viable Protestant institution. These Christian missionaries also sought to pass legislation that confirmed the legality of enslaving black Christians. The study also mentioned that Protestant slave owners in the West Indies made Christianity a sign of whiteness and power. As Christians, how can we ignore this? But it clearly seems that the Christian supremacist attitude against the native cultures of the former colonies has not gone away yet. For example, Franklin Graham of Samaritan Purse, an organization that has helped build more than 1,000 churches in India, wrote of hundreds of millions of people locked in the darkness of Hinduism, bound by Satan's power. Number 4. Penetration in Hollywood, TV programs, and the digital ecosystem. No, it is not only about the ocean of Christian magazines and publications that exist all over the world. It is also about influencing Hollywood, an industry that influences the world. For instance, consider this. Movie Guide Awards, which are also described as the Christian Oscars, have a clear mission. Read this here. They advise major movie studios in Hollywood on how their movies can become more Christian-friendly. and see what they openly declare on their website. Christian content has more than quadrupled in the movies thanks to their efforts. And how can we forget their Epiphany Prize, which promotes movies and TV programs that greatly increase men's love or understanding of God? And guess who is the financial contributor here? John Templeton Foundation. Number 5. Gender discrimination, anti-abortion violence, homophobia, and Christianity. As Christians, how can we ignore the ongoing anti-abortion violence in the so-called advanced Western countries, which has caused death and devastation? And how about the historical pattern of Christian intolerance of homosexuality, which has not ended even today? As far as gender discrimination is concerned, why can't a woman be Pope? And why did the Pope say that women can't be priests? As Christians, can we run away from these questions? Number 6. Rape, child abuse, sexual violence, and canon law. No, I am not talking about church's contribution in relation to the stolen generation in Australia or the forced assimilation or Christianization of Native American children. Neither am I talking about the mass graves of children that has been discovered in Ireland or in Canada. I want to highlight what is happening to our children in our times. All over the world, cases of church sexual abuse have shaken the world that we live in. Yes, as far as church sexual abuse is concerned, how can we ignore that even the United Nations had to demand that the Vatican should immediately remove all known and suspected child sexual abusers from service? But of course, it seems that for the church, their own canon law is very important. This canon law has been criticized for protection of church institutions and for rehabilitating violators rather than punishing them. But can reforms in canon law guarantee safety to children? Is it right to say that, as Christians, we are just running away from the source of the problem? Number 7. Pseudoscience, miracle cures, and Christianity. As Christians, how can we ignore the sufferings of those on whom exorcisms have been performed to change their sexual orientation? In the 21st century, in the so-called advanced Western world, horrifying and humiliating stories have often emerged in relation to people who had to face exorcism to evacuate the so-called gay demon out of them. Go through these stories. How shocking are these claims? And please don't forget, in 2018, around 250 priests went to Rome to undergo annual Vatican training on exorcisms. How scientific does that sound to you? Or how does the news of 50,000 Ugandans receiving a bleach-based miracle cure sound to you? And how about the powerful John Templeton Foundation, which is one of the top global funders and is known for its religious or Christian bias? Professor John Weaver explains how money from the John Templeton Foundation has even been used to fund a study that explores the so-called science in the activities of the American Christian missionaries who claim of healing deaf and blind people in Africa and even claim of bringing the dead back to life again by their Christian prayers. He also explains that the study had a flawed methodology. And of course, this study seems to be helping missionaries in religious conversion. The powerful John Templeton Foundation has given money to many leading scientists and institutions in the world who may now have financial or other benefits for speaking, writing, or researching in order to defend or support the foundation or its work. Yes, such is their penetration in the world of science. For more on this, please watch this episode. Number 8. The powerful economy of Christianity's global mission. It has been observed that US taxpayer money involving millions of dollars have been used to fund evangelical organizations which work abroad to convert non-Christians to Christianity. USAID, the US government agency, has awarded its funds to scores of conservative evangelical organizations. Professor Lee Marsden highlights how many faith-based organizations or FBOs had a clear proselytizing agenda, and yet federal money continued to flow to them. Not only that, directly or indirectly, in the Western world, common citizens also participate in this Christianity's global mission by donating money to various missionary causes. On a mass scale, every year, even families, kids, and schools in the West participate in activities like donating toys and gifts in Christmas boxes, many of which are then used by evangelical organizations to convert children to Christianity in the poor and developing part of the world. The Guardian reports that many of these boxes are distributed along with evangelical literature, and how hundreds of thousands of children in developing countries are said to have participated in a 10-lesson Bible study course. Seriously? How can anyone justify luring poor and innocent children with exotic toys to eventually convert them to Christianity? Number 9. Western caste system, oppression, and Christianity. Discrimination and oppression of Christians by Christians has existed for centuries. Many Christians have not only looked down upon fellow Christians because of their denomination, but have also participated in many conflicts and wars with each other, resulting in the deaths of millions. Invalidation of each other's denomination, exclusion, inclusion, and opposition to interdenominational marriage among Christians happen even today. For example, go through this to understand what has been happening in Ireland. Seriously? Why so much hate or discrimination by Christians against their own fellow Christians? In Latvia, it was reported that Orthodox Christmas isn't an official holiday, even though on January 6 and 7 it is observed by more than 20% of the total Latvian population. Also, how can we forget that Jehovah's Witnesses are not even considered Christians by many Christians and have faced persecution or discrimination in various parts of the world? As far as the Western caste system is concerned, let's not forget what unerliche Leute, or the so-called dishonorable people, faced in Germany. What was the religion of those who were oppressed? And what was the religion of the oppressors? As Christians, why should we shy away from facing the truth? It is clear that in order to understand Christianity completely, we must fully understand all sides of Christianity. And of course, I want to continue learning more. See you again.